There we go. That was neat.
Yeah, that was neat.
Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and I'm on the road again. This time I'm taking my buddy Drunken Master Paul on an epic road trip to parts of Washington State I have never been. This is going to be 5 days of retro game hunting. We're going to be exploring abandoned coastal forts. We're going to be cruising probably too fast in rain-soaked highways, and we're going to be staying in small towns with stunning views, including a little town that played a major role in the 1990s grunge movement. Probably you've heard of this band before. Plus, at the end of the trip, I'll share everything we picked up along the way. So, buckle up and let's hit the road. Now, before we get started, I feel like an explanation is in order because everywhere Paul takes his vehicle, everybody wants to know what the heck this is. He calls it the bin chicken, and this is a 2008 Dodge Charger that DMP transformed into an Australian Ute style truck. Kind of think of it like an El Camino. It took him about a year to build, and considering this is his first time doing anything like this, it turned out pretty purple. And it's named after an Australian bird that Aussies nickname a bin chicken because they're trash scavengers, and Paul just thought that was pretty cool.
One reason I'm super excited about this trip, besides just hanging out with my buddy, is this is the very first time I've taken Betty Bin Chicken out in the rain. And why is that? Is she precious? No, she's a bin chicken. I finally fixed all the leaks, I think. So we're taking it out in the rain, and once we do this, then I can take it out anytime I want. But we're gonna find out. I'm saying it's gonna have 3 leaks. 3 leaks by the end of the trip, but we'll find out. She's getting wet.
Now, you guys know I've done several travel videos over the years in Washington State where I live, but never on the most western side. As most of you know, I live in the Seattle area, which is where most of the population lives, kind of up and down Interstate 5, which is what's called Puget Sound. However, there's a massive section of our state between Puget Sound and the Pacific Ocean that is sprinkled with a lot of little towns to explore, and there is a massive rainforest and national park there. And all along the way, there are little video game stores for us to plunder. Oh yes. So we're going to start this trip by hopping on the Edmonds Ferry and taking that over to Kingston. Now, this is a fun little 20-minute ride across the water. It's just enough time to park your car and then go up above and kind of hang out and look at the views. One thing that's new, I hadn't seen this before, is that somebody spread out a bunch of puzzles across all of the tables up there where anybody could go and just sit down and help solve that puzzle throughout the day. Again, I thought that was pretty cool, pretty unexpected, kind of fun. And as you can see here, it's pretty cloudy out. There's a little bit of rain drizzle, but nothing too bad. And I always tell everyone that comes to this area that the Washington State ferry system is a great introduction to traveling around Puget Sound if you get the chance. Plus, it's just neat to drive your car onto a big old boat. That's such a cool part of living in this area. It's way quicker than trying to drive around to get some of these places on the freeways. You pay, I don't know, it's like $15, $20 or something like that to get on the ferry. Save yourself a ton of time, and the views are excellent. Once we are off the ferries, we are sprinting down to Silverdale to check out a retro gaming store that I've been meaning to visit for several years now. Actually, the owner of this place, He goes to a bunch of the local expos in our area. So I've bumped into him, several times over the years, and he's been like, hey, dude, if you ever get over onto the peninsula, you got to check out my store. Well, today is that day. Now, what's interesting about Silverdale is that it's technically not even a city. They keep trying to vote to incorporate it and make it official, but it keeps losing the popular vote, so it stays an unincorporated county, or I guess they call it a census-designated place, but not a city, which is pretty funny because they have over 20,000 people living there, but they don't want to be called a city just yet. It probably has something to do with taxes or something. I have no idea, but that's pretty wild, right? You prepared for video games, dude?
I am always prepared for video games, especially in lovely Silverdale, which the sky matches the name, apparently. They shipped this in right for us. That's great.
But now that we're here, we are rolling into Big Red's retro games. And as you're going to see here, this is just jam-packed with everything you would expect and want from a retro gaming store. And really, I think it's the only true gaming store in the area, so they get a lot of really cool trade-ins. The first one that caught my eye is this 20th anniversary PlayStation 4 new in the box. This is something that you don't see every day, and a lot of people, myself included, wanted to get one of these when they first came out, and they were high in demand. Now, the crazy thing about this one is that they even have the original shipping box. Yeah, to say this is very hard to find is an understatement, and honestly, this probably would go for thousands of dollars online. They have it here sitting in their store.
Oh, no. Dude, this is the stuff I'm such a sucker for.
Walking around their store in the back was a little bit of a surprise. They have this area set up where you can hang out and play games. Or you could watch a movie, like a VHS movie from your childhood. Paul was like, ooh, he started digging through that. He's like, oh yeah. He could see himself hanging out there for hours. You're not impressed?
No. Of course she's not impressed. It's my roommate. They actually look like they fit your head pretty simply.
Yeah. Now, are you impressed?
I am impressed.
See? There you go.
Jazzy right there.
Upgrade.
Jazz hand.
Another thing I noticed that they have a really solid classic Atari selection here. You'll find, loose cartridges out and about, but never really this many in-box Atari games. So that was pretty neat to see. And speaking of stuff in boxes, they have a boxed Sega Nomad. Again, something that I don't see very often. They also had a boxed TurboGrafx 16, as well as a couple other classic consoles, again, in the box. So if you're looking for that type of thing, you may want to swing by here. Now, if you've ever looked at your game collection and thought, oh man, I need a system, you're not alone. People always ask what I use to catalog everything, and honestly, it's the CLZ Games app. They're sponsoring this video, but full transparency, I've been using it for many years now. What I love most about it is how smooth it feels. There's no clutter, there's no confusion. You just open it up and you're in control of your entire collection. One of my favorite features is the barcode scanner. So say you're standing in a game store and you spot something interesting, scan it, boom, and you instantly see the values for loose, complete or sealed copies, and even graded copies. It's basically like having a pocket-sized game database. And speaking of databases, it's deep. You guys know I collect some pretty obscure stuff, including imports, and CLZ consistently recognizes games other apps miss. It also autofills everything from the cover art, release dates, publishers, even descriptions and trailers. Plus, you can personalize your collection with purchase information, notes, ratings, all those nerdy details that we actually care about. So if you want to get your collection organized, check out CLZ Games at the URL on the screen, or just search for CLZ on your app store. I'll also drop a link in the video description below, and I want to thank them for sponsoring this video. Recently on my channel, I did a video where I showed all of my PlayStation handhelds, my PSP, my Vita, stuff like that. So I'm very aware that some of those original batteries have died or sometimes even swelled up and are getting dangerous. So I love it when stores like this have lots and lots of third-party battery replacements. That's a good thing. I always appreciate seeing these because it helps keeps those handhelds running for years to come. Anybody looking for those Burger King Xbox 360 games? Every once in a while I'll see these and they always make me laugh. Down here I spot a copy of Car Battler Joe in the box for the Game Boy Advance, and I'm going to say it, total hidden gem, man. Anybody looking for a loose Sega CDX? Just sitting here on the shelf, ready to find a good home. I already have one, but this is one of my favorite Sega Genesis / Sega CDs. I thought this was kind of interesting. So this is a Resident Evil, or Biohazard as it's called in Japan, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. It sort of looks like a press kit maybe? Not entirely sure. So if you know what this is, please let me know down in the comments. And so we kept walking around here checking everything out. There was a lot packed into this store. And like I said, because it's the only major retro gaming store in the area, they get a lot of stuff all the time. So if you live in the Silverdale area and you are into video games, you might want to check this place out because I suspect that there is always something cool to discover here. All right, leaving the retro gaming store, we briefly swung by the U.S. Naval Undersea Museum.
All right, this is the Naval Undersea Museum here in in Keyport, which is really close to Silverdale. And it's a museum dedicated to basically underwater submersibles and exploration through the Navy. And the cool thing is that it has all these actual subs out here, like it has the Trieste 2 and the Mystic from October, and a big sail from another submarine. It's really cool. It's a small museum, but you can see all kinds. If you're into underwater stuff like me, you're going to dig this. So it's definitely worth a stop.
Unfortunately, this day we don't have a lot of extra time, so we couldn't go in and explore the museum properly. But I did want to mention it here for those that are interested because it's actually not that far from Seattle, so definitely check it out. Instead, what we did is we visited Fort Warden State Park. So this is part of a 3-part military installation designed to protect the waters of the Pacific Northwest from ship invasions starting all the way back in the 1800s. But also during World War I and World War II. Now, this was officially decommissioned in the 1950s, and then what happened was they opened it up to the public in 1973. What's wild is that none of these 3 forts that were built in this area ever needed to fire a shot, so perhaps they worked as a deterrent. And it was super cool walking around the remnants of this fort. Now, imagine here, there used to be massive guns that were designed to just blow up enemy ships out in the water. As a matter of fact, if you ever get over to Whidbey Island and Fort Casey, one of those other forts that they built to protect this stuff, they do have one of those massive guns still sitting there. But the whole thing is open to the public and you can just go and explore all these dark underground rooms and corridors. It's a total trip. Also, a couple movies were shot here, including Officer and a Gentleman, as well as some of the scenes from the 2002 film, The Ring. But that's pretty much it for the first day, and we're ending it in Port Townsend. The next morning we get up and Paul is going to rush back to Seattle for a day, and I'm going to continue this road trip, and then we're going to meet up in another day. So dude, where are you going?
We have tickets to see the women's national soccer team play.
Okay.
And it happened to fall right in the same week that you decided to schedule this thing. So I'm going to haul ass back home and meet up with Z, go to the game, and then I'll haul ass and meet you back in Ocean Shores.
So right now I'm going to drive from Port Townsend to Port Angeles, and that is about an hour drive. And as we go along here, you can tell that the weather is starting to get gloomier and rainier as we approach that massive rainforest. Port Angeles is a cute little town with about 20,000 people, and it has a really nice waterfront that has a bunch of small mom and pop shops. There's also a little arcade there. A lot of people will stay here on their way to the Olympic National Park. However, it's a little early in the year and it's mostly snow up that direction. So I'm really just gonna be passing through. But I did want to explore it a little bit, so I went down to the waterfront, and the first thing I saw was this. Is this a small town thing? I don't know what it is, but I love seeing these community libraries where locals will bring, books there, you borrow books from it, everyone kind of shares books. I thought that's so cool. There's a Coast Guard station way out on this narrow piece of land. So you drive through this paper mill and then out to the middle of the water, and you park your car and can just hang out. It looks like a favorite place for birds like seagulls to kind of hang out. And as you can see, it's kind of a gloomy sort of day, but also still just gorgeous out here. I was told a lot of people like living in Port Angeles because it has a relatively low cost of living. It has low crime rates, plus it's, kind of a temperate climate. It doesn't get too hot or too cold. And as you can see, it's just got a lot of natural beauty. So I'm really glad I stopped through here. It was definitely a nice little time. I had some lunch, but now it's on to Forks. And Forks might sound familiar if you have seen the Twilight movies. That is the book series and also the movies that kind of put the town of Forks on the map. This was a really fun drive because along the way, the highway snakes beside this massive lake called Lake Crescent. And the roads were super twisty. I mean, again, just really fun to drive. Although, as you can see by this footage, it's also starting to get extremely wet, right? And so I'm taking it a bit slower than I might otherwise. I will say that I'm also very thankful that I got new front tires before I went on this trip, because I am definitely using all that grip on these roads with that weather. I arrive in Forks, and immediately you are greeted to a couple shops that have all the Twilight merchandise you would ever want. You have Twilight cups, stickers, t-shirts, action figures, posters, you name it. They have a bunch of Twilight stuff for all the fans here. I did notice that the town also really focuses on promoting Sasquatch or Bigfoot too. I would say about half of the stores really focus on that instead of just Twilight. I would assume it probably has something to do with the popularity of those movies and books waning, right? Because it's been a while since they've come out. And I assume you probably don't need to license, Sasquatch or Bigfoot stuff. So who knows? But yeah, that's their two big things here, Twilight and Bigfoot. Now, I should probably say that's not the actual reason why I'm coming here, although I have seen the movies, but I'm actually staying the night about 20 minutes from Forks in La Push, called Quileute Oceanside Resort. This is a Native American reservation owned and operated by the Quileute tribe, and the room I got, check this out, it's just a few feet from the ocean. This is the reason why I wanted to come here, because I saw photos of it and I was like, oh man, this looks stunning. So, and it's funny because again, even though it's windy and raining, the view is absolutely stunning. It's a bummer that Paul isn't here to also enjoy this. What's cool is that my room on the walls has these old photographs of the original tribe members using this exact same spot decades ago, maybe like 100 years ago or something. I don't know what the age of these photos are, but it's both very surreal and also very cool to look at these and then look outside my window. It gives me the sense that this place is very special and should be protected for future generations, right? The other thing I thought was pretty cool, but also you should be aware if you're going to stay here, is that they don't have any televisions in here and no Wi-Fi. Which again, not a problem for me because I'm happy to just hang out here and enjoy it for a night. But yeah, that's something you don't typically find in hotels, right? It's day 3, Wednesday, and the weather is looking promising today. I plan on heading into the Olympic National Forest and specifically the Hoh Visitor Center. And the drive into the park was very fun. It's twisty, it's turny, you go up hills, you go down hills, you can't go very fast, and it starts giving you a preview as to what you're going to experience. I've lived my entire life in the Pacific Northwest, and I've seen my share of thick, heavy forests in Washington State, right? But I'll be honest, nothing quite like this. The Olympic National Park was created in 1938 and has 2 goals. The first one is to preserve this example of a primeval forest. And the second goal is to provide permanent protection for all the elk that live here. Now, what makes this particular park and rainforest unique is that it has fairly mild winters and also cool summers. But get this, it gets up to 12 feet of rain every year. Let me say that again. Every year it gets 12 feet of rain. Crazy, right? And you can totally tell, right? Because I'm getting partially sunny skies, but also there's this constant light sprinkle of rain also happening. There are several hikes that you can do on this side of the Hoh entrance, from, longer and more difficult ones to short and easy. I chose the most popular one, which is called the Hall of Mosses. It's about a mile long and it takes you through these thick groves of moss-covered forest. It's quite amazing and stunning, as you can see from this footage. And that 12 feet of annual rain creates these long strands of moss that pretty much are everywhere that you look. But beyond that, it's also cool to see these large growth trees that have collapsed over the decades that are just slowly decaying, but also creating new life around them. I especially love finding these trees that have all their roots exposed from all the decades of the weather just beating on them. Again, it's kind of creepy, but also really cool looking, right? Honestly, I could have spent several hours just wandering through this today. Oh man, again, not disappointed. So glad that I came here. And if you make it out this direction, you definitely want to visit the rainforest. It's quite mind-blowing. And so with that, guys, is the end of part 1 of our epic road trip over to the Olympic Peninsula. Coming up in part 2, we will meet back up with Drunken Master Paul in Ocean Shores, and we're going to take his bin chicken out on the beach and act like a couple of teenagers. We'll visit Aberdeen, which is the home of Kurt Cobain, and the museum dedicated to his life and music. We're also going to hit up a couple video game stores along the way to Olympia, and in the next video, I'll share with you all the goodies we picked up along the way. We'll see you in part 2, and thanks for watching.